Hello, my name is Austin Habish, the founder of Think Catholic, and you're listening to the Summa podcast, where we study St. Thomas Aquinas' Summa Theologiae in a way simple and insightful for anyone to understand. The Summa podcast is brought to you by Think Catholic. Taking 2 questions of the Summa a day, we'll seek to summarize St. Thomas's responses, discovering the brilliance of Aquinas and his Catholic faith. This is day 79, so let's get started. We're covering today questions 36 and 37 of the Prima Secundae, that is, of the causes of sorrow or pain and the effects of pain or sorrow. The translation that I always use in this podcast is the one generously provided to me by Ave Maria Press, the 5-volume set translated by the Fathers of the English Dominican Province, which you can now get at a discounted price from Ave Maria Press's site by typing in the code SUMMA10. And so here we go. Article 1, whether sorrow is caused by the loss of good or by the presence of evil. Aquinas will say later on that the loss of good itself can be perceived as a present evil, just as the loss of an evil would be seen as a present good. The question here is, when it comes to the sorrowful object, is it chiefly regarded by the appetite as a missing good or as a positively contrary to us kind of thing? Aquinas responds in the following words. Since in the movements of the appetite sorrow is a kind of flight or withdrawal, so sorrow regards the evil that is present. So sorrow is caused chiefly by the flight from something perceived to be presently evil or contrary to us, not merely an absent good. Article 2, whether desire is a cause of sorrow. As it is written in the book of Proverbs, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a desire fulfilled is a tree of life. Desire can be a cause of sorrow if the object of our desire is delayed or no longer possible for us to attain. However, desire should not be understood as the only cause of our sorrows, nor is it the greatest cause. As Aquinas continues, writing, we sorrow more for the loss of a present good in which we have already taken pleasure than for the withdrawal of future good which we desire to have. Article 3, whether the craving for unity is a cause of sorrow. Yes, insofar as desire can be a cause of sorrow, and because everything desires unity or oneness as it desires goodness, because the two are transcendentals or controvertible with one another, is the word Aquinas uses, as we described in episodes 3 and 4 of this podcast. For a thing to exist, it must have some kind of unity in itself, or it could not be called a thing at all. Therefore, being and unity are controvertible or one, in reality only distinct in our consideration of them. Moreover, the more one, united, simple a thing becomes, the more godlike it becomes, who has no composition whatsoever. Even his triune nature does not divide him into parts. See episodes 15 through 22 on the Trinity for more on that. All this to say that everything desires unity as it desires being and goodness. Plus, insofar as a thing desires other goods, it does desire to be united to those goods, the union of which will affect joy and pleasure. Aquinas responds to this article in the following words. Sorrow is caused by the craving, not for any kind of unity, but for that unity in which the perfection of nature consists. Separation from things hurtful and corruptive is desired, insofar as they destroy the unity which is due. Article 4, whether an irresistible power is a cause of sorrow. In a sentence from Augustine, sorrow in the soul is caused by the will resisting a stronger power, while pain in the body is caused by sense resisting a stronger body. The gist of the response here is that sorrow is an acquiescing in some perceived evil which the soul or body simply would not do if it could avoid it, which is why the article asks if an irresistible power is the cause of sorrow, because the sorrowful object must be deemed irresistible for the soul or body to simply rest in it. Otherwise, again, it would strive to avoid it. And with that, we move on to question 37 of the effects of pain or sorrow. Article 1, whether pain deprives one of the power to learn. The soul being one thing, to the extent its powers are being directed towards one action, its focus can be drawn away from other actions. For example, all of us have experienced how things like an incredibly painful stomach ache or physical wounding can pull our attention from everything else. Yet moderate sorrow or pain can actually be an impetus to learn. Think of how physical discomfort leads one to try and learn so as to diagnose themselves and then search for a treatment. Or consider how many people have gone searching for God intellectually because of pain or sorrow in their lives. In St. Thomas's words, moderate sorrow that does not cause the mind to wander can conduce to the acquisition of learning, especially in regard to those things by which a man hopes to be freed from sorrow, and thus men are more apt to be taught by God. Article 2, whether the effect of sorrow or pain is to burden the soul. We use the term burden here metaphorically when we apply it to the passions, for sorrow is not a physical weight or burden to us, but it can be analogous to one because of the following from St. Thomas. Sorrow is caused by a present evil, and this evil, from the very fact that it is repugnant to the movement of the will, depresses the soul inasmuch as it hinders it from enjoying that which it wishes to enjoy. So inasmuch as sorrow is perceived as a hindrance, or the passion elicited through resting in some hindrance or obstacle to the desired good, it can be said to be burdensome to us, kind of like an actual physical burden would denote a hindrance to physical movement or physical attainment to some good that we seek. Article 3, whether sorrow or pain weakens all activity. If sorrow or pain comes from the activity itself in question, like someone working at his job which he considers itself evil and sorrowful, then the passion will necessarily weaken that activity because it will move a man to not carry out that task as effectively or successfully as he might have done otherwise. But if a man's work is for the sake of freeing himself of some sorrow or pain, then sorrow can actually help motivate or strengthen his activity. Think of the resolve of one who is trying to free him or herself from physical pain or poverty. Article 4 in our last article, whether sorrow is more harmful to the body than the other passions of the soul. Aquinas holds that it is, and this is because the passion of sorrow is a movement of the soul in flight or under the influence of something perceived as contrary to it. And since the passions are accompanied by a physical change, then the physical change affected by sorrow will be a negative one, a kind of shrinking back, a resting repugnance, since that is the essence of sorrow. Also, since the passions of fear and anger presuppose sorrow, here sorrow can also be said to be detrimental to the body, since fear and anger are not normally held to be beneficial to a person's health, as evidenced in those who are chronically angry or anxious. And so for all of these reasons, St. Thomas holds that of the passions of the soul, sorrow is most harmful. And then lastly, it does seem like Scripture indicates this as well, as it is written in Proverbs 17, a joyful mind maketh age flourishing, a sorrowful spirit drieth up the bones. And Proverbs 25, as a moth doth by a garment, and a worm by the wood, so the sadness of a man consumeth the heart. And in the book of Sirach, chapter 38, of sadness cometh death. And with that, we come to a close of another episode. We have just finished covering questions 36 and 37 of the Prima Secundae, that is, of the causes of sorrow and pain and of the effects of pain or sorrow. My name is Austin Habish with Think Catholic, and I cannot wait to see you tomorrow.